Hello guys, and welcome back to a brand new video of Murder is Dumb. And I'm just gonna tell you real fast that this case that I researched it's like a wild goose chase, and it has no end to it. So it is gonna be an unsolved disappearance, and there's no evidence at all of like anything. So we don't know anything. To this day, it remains the most mysterious and the most heartbreaking case in the state of North Carolina. Yes, we're in North Carolina today, not California. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the disappearance of Asha Degree. Despite the extensive searches and investigations, her whereabouts and the circumstances surrounding her disappearance remain unknown to this very day. And yeah, this case is very tragic, it's heartbreaking, and it's just so frustrating because we don't know anything about it. So all we are left with is just the theories and nothing. we don't know we don't know the outcome. It's just mind-boggling to me. And like I said, we are in North Carolina, and the city is called Shelby. So we're in Shelby, North Carolina. Asha Degree was born on August 5th, 1990 in Shelby, North Carolina. Her parents were Harold and Aquila Degree. They got married in 1989 and on Valentine's Day. And you're going to see why Valentine's Day is such an ominous day in this case. She had an older brother named O'Brien Degree, and Harold and Aquila both raised their children in an apartment in a subdivision of North Shelby. The children were raised in a very sheltered life, so they had no TV, especially the news. Their parents thought that the news was no good because all they saw was just negativity, which I get. I mean, if you look at the news today, it's just negativity all over the place, So I kind of see how they were sheltered by their parents. They really had no social interactions outside of school, church, or family events. And what's important to know is that they did not own a computer in their house. Aquila had a very strong opinion about this and once said, "Every time they got on the news, there's always something about a pedophile luring young children with a computer," which is true to this very day. Pedophiles have been targeting children, soliciting them, grooming them online. You hear news headlines about it, you just hear a lot about it, and it's gross. And so Aquila just didn't want to take that chance with her kids, which I don't think any parent wants to take that chance with their kid, no matter if they own a computer or not. I mean, it's kind of hard to monitor that. In the year 2000, Asha Degree was 9 years old. She was in the 4th grade and went to Foshton Elementary School. She was described as being very timid and shy, and she was intimidated very easily. But one thing that everyone said about her is that she was very polite, which I think that's a strong characteristic in a child, because how many kids that are actually genuinely polite? I actually went out to dinner the other day, and there is a little girl right across from me, on the side. She literally turned and coughed. And I was like, yeah, you had to do that. You had to do that. It looked like this. uh, anyways, on February 11th, 2000, school was actually closed that day. And I believe it was President's Day, which doesn't make sense because President's Day is later in the year, but I didn't find a definitive answer. I just knew that the school was closed that day. Aisha's parents were both working, so the kids both stayed at their aunt's house, and her name was Alicia. Later that day, Alicia took both of the kids to basketball practice because they both had games the next day at Burns Middle School. And Aisha loved basketball. She got excited every time she played, which that's just something that you want in a child. You want them to find something that they actually love and enjoy and have fun doing. Before Aisha played her game, she was actually complaining that her leg was sort of injured. So Aisha was actually a star player on the team. It means she was really good. She played the position of point guard. Don't ask me what that is because I don't know. I don't know positions of basketball. And due to her injury, She actually got like sat down at the game, so she didn't really play at all. And it wasn't her fault or anything, but her team actually lost that day. And it was the first loss of the season. This loss really got to Asha. She was crying, she was upset because she thought it was her fault and she let the whole team down. Later on, O'Brien had his game, and by then Asha sort of got over it. She was playing with her teammates, having fun, laughing. She kind of got over it really fast. And then after the games, they both went home. On the morning of February 13th, they actually went back to their Aunt Alicia's house. And in Waco, they were attending the Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church in Waco. And then they went back to their aunt's house. They had lunch, and they had a little bit of Valentine's Day candy because Valentine's Day was tomorrow for them. And it was reported that Asha was in a good mood. She wasn't like sad or anything. So the kids went back home to their mom later that day because their father was actually working his second job at PPG Industries. Asha just hung out with her brother before they went to bed, and she got into her nightgown. Her nightgown was white with red trimmings, and she also had pigtails in her hair. Here's a photo of pigtails. I don't know what they are. And by 8 p.m., both of the kids went off to their rooms to go to bed. They both shared rooms, by the way, so, they had a bed right here, and across from them was their sibling. They shared a room. So that night, a storm was actually rolling into Shelby, and by 6 p.m. in the evening, there was a car crash, and the power went out. I always hate when the power goes out. I'm sure you know why if you've experienced that. But it was back on by 12:30 a.m., and that was exactly when Harold came back home from his second job. So now it's February 14th, aka Valentine's Day, and it's also Harold and Aquila's wedding anniversary. But February 14th, 2000 was actually the day they will never forget. It was also the day that Asha disappeared. So the first thing Harold did when he got home was to check on the children, and he saw that they were both asleep in their bed. So it's a little iffy on what Harold said he did by 12:30 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. Usually he is sitting down watching TV. So he said he did this, and he got Valentine's Day candy. So he went back out and returned by 2:30. He got some Valentine's Day treats for the wedding anniversary and for his kids. By the way, I don't know what store is open besides like a 24/7 gas station selling Valentine's Day candy. I don't know. We'll look into it later. So he came back home by 2:30 a.m. and again he checked on the kids and he saw that they were both sound asleep in their beds. And then he got into bed and went to sleep himself. So a little after 2:30, O'Brien actually hears Asha moving around and squeaking in her bed. So obviously that woke him up. He saw that Asha actually went to the bathroom and just came right back. So a little bit after that, O'Brien wakes up again to Asha squeaking in her bed, but he went back to sleep really fast. Like someone makes a noise and you're like, and you just go to bed not thinking anything. At 5:45 a.m., Aquila wakes up. And this is earlier than usual, but again, it's her wedding anniversary and it's also Valentine's Day. So she wants to get the kids up because also the night before, there was a power outage. Let me take a breath. So they didn't take their baths the night before. She says that she usually wakes them up at 6:30 a.m., but again, you will have to get them dressed and ready earlier because the power was out. So she went to go wake up the children and notice that Asha was not in her bed sleeping. She saw that O'Brien was, but Asha was nowhere to be seen. So at first she didn't want to panic, which you don't want to panic right away. You don't want to think of the worst of everything. So her thinking was that she might have just woken up earlier than her and was just somewhere in the house. So after she looks around the house, then this is when the panic starts to kick in for her. She quickly wakes up Harold and tells her what's going on, and then Harold actually calls his mom to see if Asha went over there. And he also called Aunt Alicia. And the kid's grandma is a Grandma Joanne. And when he asked them if Asha was there, they obviously said, no, she's not. So at this time, Aquila hears a car outside. A car just zooming down the street. And so she's like, oh, what if she's in our car? Which is sort of good thinking. What if she walked outside and went into the car? But she found out that she was not in the car either. So Aquila calls her mother now, and she's panicking to the very max, which I would too. If my kid was not in the house, not anywhere to be seen, I don't know what I would do, to be honest. I freak out when I can't even find my cats, and they're like in the pantry or something. I get so mad when they do that. So her mom's trying to calm her down, and she insists to call the police immediately. At 6:40 a.m., less than 10 minutes after Asha was discovered to not be in the house, the police arrive with search dogs. And basically, the search dogs were no help. Asha's scent couldn't be picked up by any of the dogs, and the police say it was due to the storm. So what I gathered on the internet is that sometimes rain can be very helpful. It can bring out the scent for the dogs and make it easier to, pick up a scent and find where it leads. But since it was a very windy storm, it was raining and it was very windy, it just meant that it scattered the scent everywhere, if there even was a scent. So they said it was pretty much impossible to pick up any scent of Asha's. So the police look around the house, and the parents start to look around the neighborhood. And at 7 a.m., this is when a bunch of the neighbors wake up and gather around and try to just help find Asha. By the end of the day, all of the family's friends, people from the church, and even their own family were there in search of Asha. But at the end of the day, no one could find anything, even the police. So this is when the police look around the house, and there was absolutely no signs of forced entry, and all the doors were still locked. This is when Aquila realizes that Asha is a missing person. So she decides to get cleared by the police because she just wanted the police to go search for her and not focus on her and Harold. So they both took a polygraph test and they both passed. So they were cleared of being any persons of interest. So the police didn't have to focus on that. So the police looked throughout the whole neighborhood. They looked on different streets, the surrounding areas, trying to find any evidence or lead for her disappearance. So the first day, nothing was actually found besides one mitten. But in the end, Aquila stated that it was not Asha's and none of her winter clothes were missing. So police find out that her backpack is missing along with a few items of hers. So the only things missing were a backpack, a notebook with a Tweety Bird on it, a pair of pants, a pair of sneakers, and a t-shirt, which I think it was a New Kids on the Block t-shirt, I believe. So police quickly theorized that Asha actually left by herself. Since there was no signs of forced entry and the backpack was missing, they said it might have been planned out, but they don't know her reasoning, because she had a happy life. Aquila was saying that there was no way Asha left by herself. So this is where most of the suspicion and speculation comes from. It's actually the reasoning. Why did she leave? Again, the parents were adamant that she would not leave by herself. They said it wasn't like her to leave, and they said there was no reason why she would. Her life was really good and important. She's also scared of storms, scared of dogs, and scared of the dark. What? She's scared of all those things, but yet she disappears on the night of a storm. Night, dark, storm, raining, windy, storm, and dogs. You don't know if there's a dog around the corner or a dog over there. It's dark. How are you going to know? So why would she leave? So later in the day on February 14th, this is when media latched onto the story and just soaked it up. In a good way, though. All kinds of photos were posted on television of Asha, and this is when Aquila stated something very important on TV. She pleaded that if anyone had any information or if anyone had her, to please come forward. She was pleading to see her little girl again. So there were some witnesses. There was actually two at the time. One said he had seen a little girl matching the description of Asha that very morning, and she was seen walking on Highway 18. So, Highway 18, a location we are going to talk about a lot. This is a 2-lane road in Shelby that spans 145 miles. It's on the exact same road that Asha's bus takes, also, by the way. So Asha was familiar with this road. She went up and down it every day, or every school day. So when Asha was first seen, it was actually in a poorly lit area, and it was also hard to navigate by foot. Two more witnesses came forward. They're actually a motorist and a truck driver. One of them said that they saw Asha walking on Highway 18 between 3:30 and 4:15 a.m., which this also means that it was freezing cold in Shelby, especially in February. It was cold. So a thought was maybe she was walking into town. The witnesses said that she was also wearing nothing but a white long sleeve t-shirt and her backpack. And these statements were in fact true, since items that were missing from the house matched the exact description of what she was wearing that night. So the truck driver was concerned, and so when he passed her, he actually did a U-turn to go see if she was okay. But one of my questions is, all these people saw her, they saw a little girl wearing nothing but a t-shirt, and they didn't call 911? I mean, I know you're not thinking of anything bad, but come on, you see a little girl on the street, especially at night during a storm. I know I would at least call someone. So he actually asked Asha if she was okay. And after that, Asha freaked out and ran into a wooded area down the highway. So, she was right here, gets asked if she was okay, runs into the woods. Or it wasn't like woods, it was just a very light wooded area. So it wasn't like foresty, it wasn't like a lot of trees, it was just a few trees in an area, if that makes sense. And this was the last sight of Asha. 2 days after the witness statements, there was still nothing. Until 3 days later, after Asha went missing, on February 17th, on Highway 18, they found a shed owned by Debbie Turner Upholstery. Inside this ominous shed was just, furniture, a tractor, and any supplies that were being held by the upholstery company. So on February 15th, Debbie Turner, the owner, said that she found items in the shed just 1 day after Asha went missing. And when the police came looking, she remembered, hey, I found these items here, and this girl is missing, maybe these are hers. Those items were a green pencil, a Mickey Mouse hair bow, and a green marker. Those were all found inside of the shed. So then police searched around this area extensively. The only thing that they found were candy wrappers. And these candy wrappers were linked to the exact same candy that Asha got from her basketball team. Someone on the basketball team made goodie bags for Valentine's Day for the team, and some of the candy was from the goodie bag. So maybe this is a lead. This is big. We know that this candy was from Asha's basketball team from Saturday night. So what can we get out of this? So again, the dogs came to search for a scent, but again, after a long time, there was no scent to be tracked. The dogs couldn't match Asha's scent. And one of the theories of the police was that Asha actually went into the shed after she was spooked by the truck driver to find shelter from the storm. And also, maybe she was taken in there? Wink, wink. So the shed obviously raised a lot of questions. Why did she go in there? And also, why did it take 3 days for the police to even search near the spot where she was last spotted? And FYI, nothing else was found. That was it. Candy wrappers, marker, pencil, Mickey Mouse hair bow. That was it. And 1 week later, after Asha disappeared, the police called off their search. At least not on foot anymore. So it was said that they actually put in 9,000 man-hours in a span of 1 week, and they still found nothing. No sign of Asha, no remains, no body, nothing, not even a scent. Again, the police theory is that Asha ran off by herself, but a lot of people disagree with this. And my opinion on this is I don't think she actually went by herself. And I'll get with my theory later. I kind of know. I actually don't know. I don't know anything, actually. Since it was such an early time in the morning. It was 3 a.m. Maybe some individual actually abducted her, since they would be confident because they're in such a secluded area. It's a perfect time for a abductor to take his chance. Police also say that she might have crossed paths with someone with bad intentions. This is corroborated with the fact that she was really difficult to track. And so let's just say that there actually was a abductor. She was abducted by someone. Most of the time, it's over a long period of time. Abductors, they stalk their victims. They stalk, they groom, and they follow their victims around before they strike. And they almost always leave at least one clue with their kidnapping. With the person they kidnapped, they always leave a clue. Sometimes. Most of the time. And since she was all alone walking on a dark highway, this is a perfect time for an abductor to quickly kidnap her, leaving no evidence at all. Also, most of the time, the abductors are close to their victim, whether this be a family friend or a member of the family. And if this was just a random person, the police can't pinpoint a perpetrator. So a month later, in March 2000, the police still had nothing. And this is when the FBI and the California State and this is when the California State Bureau of Investigations and FBI join in on the case. And over the next couple months, the parents are always on TV pleading to have anyone that has any information please come forward. And Oprah Winfrey also did a episode about Asha's disappearance, and there was also some sort of just information about Asha Degree's disappearance on the Montel Williams show, and also America's Most Wanted. And after all of that, still nothing came up. So on August 3rd, 2001, we're more than a year into her disappearance. This is the first piece of evidence since the shed was found. And also the shed was the last piece of evidence of Asha's disappearance. So the evidence was found 26 miles away exactly from the shed. So the evidence that was found was 26 miles away from the shed. And the evidence was actually Asha's backpack. So Asha's backpack has been found. And thinking about it, it's so far away. Could this be a red herring? Who knows? The police say that it's unlikely that she left it there herself, since she was last seen a mile away from her house. How does she get 26 miles away from where she lives? That doesn't make sense. So on August 3rd, Terry Fleming, who was a 44-year-old contractor, was getting a plot of land ready to build a house. And this was actually 15 yards away from Highway 18. So while prepping to build a house, he found a garbage bag. And so, like any curious person, he opened it. And inside was another garbage bag. Inside of that garbage bag, and inside the two garbage bags, was actually Asha's backpack. So Terry had no knowledge at all about Asha's disappearance. He didn't know anything about the case. But he wrote down the phone number that was in the backpack and kept the note that was actually in it, because he just had a sort of a mild suspicion about it. You find a backpack, a children's backpack, in two trash bags in a random area. I mean, that's red flags all over the place for me. I would be calling the police instantly. So he told his wife the next day what he had found, and luckily, she knew about the case. So she advised him to call the police immediately. So quickly, search and rescue teams entered the area of where the backpack was found. And after all the searching, do you know what they found? Absolutely nothing. So the FBI took the backpack for forensics, but this is when officials actually said that foul play was involved, since her backpack was found so far away from her house, and also since it was buried. Maybe the perpetrator that took her, or had her, buried it into the woods so no one could find it. Buried it in the woods so no one could find it. Why does it have two trash bags? That doesn't make sense. I mean, a lot of this case doesn't make sense, and yeah, I don't know. And in 2004, a tip came from an inmate in the Shelby County Jail, and the police never released what he said, but It sparked an excavation of an area, maybe for possible remains or even just a lead of something, evidence. Again, we don't know. They didn't find anything besides animal bones, so this was just a waste of time. So we're in 2015 now. Still, nothing has been found. Nothing's been linked to Asha's disappearance. There's no body. There's no evidence besides the few that I said and I talked about. But 15 years later, after she actually disappeared, it was looked at again by FBI investigators and also the Shelby investigators and California State Bureau of Investigations. Bureau. That's a hard word to say, for me at least. So a $25,000 reward was made for any information that leads to, anything to solve this case. So by the locals' funding, the reward actually went up to $45,000. So at this time, police were doing a lot. They also re-interviewed all the witnesses, and they were just looking back on the evidence, seeing if they missed something. And still, there was nothing. This is so frustrating. Why is there no information? Why is there no evidence? Why is there no one speaking? Someone has to know something. In May 2016, information was released since the finding of her backpack 15 years earlier. It's a long time. FBI said that it was new evidence by a new witness that came forward. So we got one witness coming forward. Nice. And this is when the ominous car comes into play. So the witness said that they saw a girl matching Asha's description get into a dark green car. And they said it was near Highway 18 where Asha was last seen. So it was close to that area. And they narrowed it down to a 70s Ford Thunderbird or a Lincoln Mark IV. Since they were both similar in style and the witness couldn't pinpoint what kind of model it was, they kind of just went off of a description. So this became a vehicle of interest. And since the witness took 15 years to come forward, there's a slim chance of the police actually finding anything that leads to anything. And again, the vehicle was never found, so good job. Nice. Again, just a dead end. There's dead ends everywhere in this freaking case. Oh my god. So that's all we have. That's all the evidence that we have. The only thing we have now is just speculation and theories. That brings us to the theories. So one of the theories was that she was actually sleepwalking. Since she was young and sleepwalking it's not very uncommon in young children. I knew a few friends actually growing up that actually sleptwalk. My cousin actually sleepwalks. So I know a few people that sleepwalk. And people can do really crazy things when they sleepwalk. Sometimes even scary. My aunt was telling me one morning, it was like really early in the morning. It was like 2 a.m. My cousin was just staring at her in her sleep, and she woke up and she was frightened. She was like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" And my cousin wasn't responding, and she figured out that she was actually sleepwalking. So yeah, scary stuff can happen. To me, it's scary. I don't want to see that. I don't want to witness that. I don't want to be in the house when someone sleepwalks, because if I see someone sleepwalking, I'm going to be like, "What are you doing?" And if they don't respond, I'm getting the hell out of that house. So the theory goes that Asha sleptwalked outside, and woke up when she was asked if she was okay. And then she freaked out and ran into the woods. So if this theory was true, then she would have to be dreaming or be in a dreamlike state. I don't know how sleepwalkers sleepwalk. Do they dream or what? She could have been dreaming about going to school, because she was going to school the next day. She had her backpack. She was ready to go. In dreams, you don't really dress all the way, I guess. So that also makes sense that she was also in the t-shirt when she was quote unquote sleepwalking. I mean, you don't really get dressed all the way in dreams. I mean, dreams are weird. I don't know. I don't know anything about dreams. I don't know. So she could have gotten dressed, and when she ran into the woods, she could have gotten picked up by a abductor. And another idea that I don't really think is possible is that she was a victim of a hit and run. Maybe a person hit her, and they freaked out, put her in the car, and then she slowly, passed away, or she was already passed away. They freaked out and hid the body. But this doesn't make sense because there's no evidence of, her actually getting hit. There's no blood. There's no car damage, debris everywhere. There's some sort of evidence in a hit and run that you can go off of, that you can make sure it was a hit and run. You know what I'm saying? So again, I don't believe this theory that she sleptwalked. I don't believe that. It could be true, but that's just my opinion. I don't believe it. There's not enough evidence. This case doesn't have enough evidence. What am I talking about? So the police's theory is that she actually left by herself. She wanted to leave. This makes sense because her backpack was prepared to leave. She had all the items in her backpack to, leave her house. And also they found out that in her class, they were actually reading a book by Sid Fleischman. Don't know if I'm saying that right. It's called The Whipper Boy. And in The Whipper Boy, it's about two characters that go on an adventure and they run away from home. So maybe she read this book. It inspired her to, run away because she was so sheltered. She wanted to experience an adventure. Could be possible. But again, it was dark, stormy, dogs outside. Afraid of all those things. Why would she do that? Especially a 9-year-old girl is not going to overcome her fears just because she wants to run away from home. I don't believe that. I don't believe the Whipper Boy theory, and I don't believe that she left by herself. She seemed happy with her life. She seemed happy with her hometown. She was just a happy little girl. There's no reason why she would leave. Her home life was perfect for her. And experts also say that it takes way more for a child to actually run away. If they're being abused by someone, it takes a lot more than just, not owning a computer for her to leave. And people also say that the basketball game actually triggered her to run away. I don't believe that either. Although she was upset that she lost the game, I don't think that would be so much for her to run away. And plus, after the game, by O'Brien's game, she was happy. She was joking around. She forgot about it. Kids have what's the word I'm looking for? The kids have a short attention span. I mean, most kids do. Even I do. I would forget about the game as soon as it's done. I'd be like, all right, what's for lunch? So I don't believe that either. The basketball theory? No, don't believe it. Another one is that she was groomed. There's no evidence of anyone actually grooming her. The only way that she was groomed, if she was groomed, is actually, by a friend or family, because they didn't have a computer. So there's no internet for her to be chatting with someone online. And people also say maybe a church person, like a priest, groomed her, or a teacher. But again, there's no evidence of that. Now we get into my theory. My theory is kind of out there. But again, my theory is my theory, so if you want to hear my theory, open your ears. So some questions need to be answered to shed light on this whole case. And especially in the beginning of this case, some questions need to be answered. So in the beginning, these questions need to be answered so we know everything. Like if I'm so into this case, and it's so some questions in the beginning of this case need to be answered, and we'll get into those in a bit. So it's obvious that she left by herself. Let's just say that. Or did she leave by herself? There's no evidence or indication of why on earth she would leave willingly. There's no evidence on why she would even consider to leave, and it doesn't add up to, her doing that. So that brings me to a question. Why did she leave? And did she leave with someone that she knew? That is my theory. I think that she left with someone that she knew. And let me tell you why. And maybe not even someone she knew, maybe someone that she was really close with. Maybe even someone she loved, a family member or a friend. Again, this is just a theory. So there's reasons why I think this, but I can't actually say it because I don't want to be sued for defamation. So I'm not going to say a specific person. So say she leaves and meets up with someone and gets into their car. She meets with someone she knows, gets into their car, or she gets into the car as soon as she leaves the house. She could have been told that she was going somewhere to, eat, maybe even to grandma's house or her aunt's house. And maybe she was told she was going to, spend the night there with them. That explains why her backpack was full of things of which she would take in case of a sleepover or any place she was going. And let's say that maybe this individual that she was in the car with was not nice to her and maybe took advantage of her, or even something sinister or scary for her to be scared and exit the vehicle. So let's go ahead and backtrack. Let's say she wasn't in a vehicle. So let's say if she was actually walking with someone that she knew. She gets spooked, she runs away. Maybe the individual thinks, oh, she'll come running back. She's scared of the dark. Why would I run after her? Maybe the individual thinks that she's not going to get that far and then realizes she's getting away. That leads to her being alone on the highway and her getting spotted, her being asked if she was okay, running into the woods because she's scared of, someone that she doesn't trust anyone. That makes sense. But I think that her actually being in a car makes more sense. And here is why. So Asha gets spooked and is scared. She exits the vehicle, runs away from the vehicle. Maybe she was close or even on the highway already. Maybe the individual in the car tries to get her back but sees there's people noticing her on the highway, aka the witnesses. This makes the individual of the vehicle to just, stalk her and just see where she goes as she's being spotted by all these witnesses. So the individual is stalking her as she walks down the highway. Eventually she gets scared by a truck driver asking her if she was okay, and then she runs into the woods, eventually to a shed. This is when the individual might have time to go after her, now that she knows that she is alone in a secluded area, and she's also in a dense, wooded, remote part of the city, eventually finding her in the shed. Maybe they're just hanging out, the individual's like, hey, I'm cool. She eats a little bits of candy, leaves a few things, or something. Then maybe something sinister would happen by the individual, and she's never seen again. This individual might even have time to get rid of her body and get rid of her belongings that she had. Maybe they might have time to return back to wherever they came from before throwing the backpack, far away, miles away from their house. Or maybe this individual is just driving. Maybe he drives as long as possible while thinking what they have just done to a small, young little girl. Eventually throwing the backpack in, an area of where no one's really going to find it, making it almost a red herring. This makes sense because the backpack was so far away, 26 miles to be exact. And then after this, the individual comes back home. And that was a lot. That was a big theory. That's just my theory. It's not true. You could think about what this case leads up to. If you guys have any theories, put it down in the description. I want to listen. Not listen. I want to read them. So tell me what you guys think about this case. To this very day, Asha Degree is still a missing person, and this Valentine's Day will be the 23rd anniversary of her disappearance, and she has been missing ever since. So she's been missing for 23 years now. Also, if you guys didn't really care, Asha was a Leo. I forgot to add that. My bad. So that is the case of the disappearance of Asha Degree. It was a wild goose chase of nothing. I hate how there's no evidence and nothing has came up with anything. There's no answer. I hate that. And I hate how the family has no closure at all. It really sucks because she had such a bright future ahead of her. If you guys enjoyed this case, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment for a case that you want to see me do. I will be happy to do it. Anyways, guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day or night. As always, be safe, have fun, don't be dumb, and don't murder anyone. Please. It's not fun. Because murder is dumb. I forgot to say that. And don't kidnap people, because that's also not fun. Bye.